Thanks for tuning in to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us. You know, it won't be long, Brian, and we'll be planting soybeans. And when we do, we're certainly going to begin by putting a good quality seed treatment on that seed. But there's so many choices. We'll talk about what you may choose today.
Now already today, I've been giving Darren a hard time because he's been complaining about how cold it is. It's cold, Brian. I got to wear gloves and I got to wear
chilly.
3 layers and everything else. I don't think it's that bad, but here's what I do know. Cold weather affects certain herbicides on the farm, and you've got to be thinking about that every spring. We're going to talk today about how exactly cold weather affects things, especially glyphosate.
Well, I wish that cold weather was all it took to get rid of our weed of the week. But first, here's this week's Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
Every year, Darren and I get questions from non-farmers who are all concerned about pesticides, and they're getting all over our environment and everything else. And you know what? I always tell them, look, the farmer has a lot of dollars at stake here. The last thing he wants is for his pesticides to leave his field. So there are a number of techniques that farmers can use to reduce any drift potential or any off-site movement or off-target movement, and we wanted to explain those today.
Well, you know, Brian, today is a great day for spraying because there's no wind. So when you're out spraying, you've maybe got a 2-mile-an-hour breeze out there that's hardly blowing at all. Well, that's just perfect because when you're spraying your herbicide, you could spray about anything, use about any kind of spray tip, just blow it out there and it's going to land right underneath your sprayer. So this is perfect. So what farmers will do, first of all, is look for those days where there isn't very much wind at all. Now they can tolerate winds most of the time up to about 10 miles an hour without much issue. But farmers will try to find the more calm days if they can.
One of the other little techniques, little tricks that farmers will use a lot of times too, especially spraying real early in the season like now, is lowering their boom down. Now they have to have the boom on that sprayer a little ways up above the canopy. We're talking 18 to 24 inches above the crop. But when there is no crop, they're spraying on bare ground. Obviously, they can have that thing just about down to the ground.
Well, the reason they need that little bit of a clearance is because those spray nozzles are typically cone-shaped and they're going to spray a cone-shaped pattern. So more of the spray is going to be right in the middle. Yep. Less of the spray is going to be out towards the ends of the cones. So those cones have to overlap. So those nozzles have to be up off the ground so they can properly overlap. If you put them 2 inches off the ground, well, you're going to have a big stream right underneath the nozzle and nothing in between. So that's why we have to manage that height a little bit, but it is adjustable as the farmer moves through the field.
Okay, speaking of spray nozzles, there are different drift reduction nozzles that a farmer can buy. For example, Turbo T-Jet or air induction nozzles. And what those basically do is they make the droplet size a little bit bigger. And just think about it for a second. If I've got a small droplet and a big droplet, which one weighs more? Well, the big droplet, obviously. And the more something weighs, the quicker it's going to get to the ground. That's gravity. So we want those bigger droplets in order to keep the spray in the field. If we have very small, fine droplets, that's not a good thing in terms of drift.
Well, when you talk about those big droplets, I don't know if they fall any faster than the others, but they certainly don't get caught up in any wind. And as you're driving through the field and you have a little bit of a breeze out there, maybe it's 5 miles an hour or something like that, well, those products can move a little bit. And if they're a tiny little floaty drop, it can drift over to the side where those heavy ones fall a lot straighter down. So that is kind of nice and kind of predictable. But the other thing farmers can do, Brian, without even switching those tips, is use a spray additive to make that droplet size a little bigger too.
Yep, there have been products called drift retardants out for years and years and years. And what used to happen is they had these old polyacrylamide products that you'd get what's called pump shear, and it would be a problem. And eventually, the more you circulated that in your spray tank, the more of a sludge this product became, and farmers hated those products. Well, now they have newer technologies out, so there are lecithin products that are made from soy, and there's also the HPG polymer that will help with drift retardant, but it's not going to become a problem in the spray tank like the old products were.
Well, there are many different options that farmers have, whether it's raising or lowering their spray boom, adding a spray additive, changing their spray tips, or just looking for a day that the wind isn't blowing to try to control where their product lands. And believe me, for what farmers are investing in these products, they want to make sure they're landing in their field to do the job controlling things like our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?
There are more mouths to feed than ever before. What are farmers doing to meet the challenge? They're using agronomically designed equipment from Case IH. Our Quadtrac technology, soil management, and planting systems are designed to foster a better growing environment that helps farmers maximize yield potential. And our deep understanding of agriculture is preparing them for the challenges ahead. Will you be ready?
I'm ready.
Go to caseih.com to learn more.
Looking to maximize yield? Quick Roots is a microbial seed inoculant that allows the plant root to explore a greater volume of soil, the key to higher yields. Quick Roots continues to generate yield response on corn, soybeans, wheat, and more. Quick Roots is applied to the seed so the live microorganisms go right to work, enhancing seedling vigor, increasing the uptake of certain nutrients, including NPK, and expanding root volume. Maximize yield on your farm this season. Call TJ Technologies or your local dealer and get your Quick Roots today.
Speed, strength, and efficiency make Capello corn heads a head above the rest. Built with polymer components that exceed industry standards, Capello corn heads continue to push the boundaries for maximizing grain retention while using less energy. Visit CapelloUSA.com and learn more about Capello's state-of-the-art chopping technology that cuts cleaner, allowing your horsepower to remain where it belongs, with your combine, so you can harvest faster in all weather conditions. Add to that an amazing folding feature, and it's clear to see why Capello is a head above the rest.
You can't fill a barrel any fuller than its lowest stave, and your crops can't do any better than the nutrient that's in shortest supply. Your yield potential is only as good as the weakest nutrient in your fertilizer program. Give your crops more than just NPK. Prescription apply all the micronutrients your crop needs, each one customized for your crop's potential. MicroLink, linking yield to potential.
Back in 1966, Advanced Drainage Systems, Inc. was the first company to start manufacturing plastic agricultural drainage pipe in the United States. And today, ADS continues our leadership with superior pipe production and service capabilities. Our roots are firmly entrenched in the agriculture industry, and we're committed to helping farmers grow their business. With 54 manufacturing plants and 24 distribution yards throughout the world, you can count on ADS and our green striped pipe to be there when you need us. Advanced Drainage Systems, the green striped pipe you can count on.
All right, Darren, we've been out here for a while. I agree, it is a little bit chilly.
Yeah, your nose is starting to turn a little pink there, Brian.
Yeah, my hands are getting a little cold. And you know, when that happens, I realize my Roundup that I want to spray today, it's probably not going to work like it normally does. Why is that? And what do I need to do to correct the problem?
What I think is fun is there are a lot of no-tillers that are out trying to burn down some winter annual weeds.
Yep.
And you know what? It's cold weather. And so they've got to do some things to make sure that that Roundup is going to work.
What we wanted to talk about here is with Roundup, let me just start and give you our first rule of Roundup spraying. It is if the nighttime temperature drops below 50 degrees within 2 days before or after spraying, we need to increase the Roundup rate by 50% as long as that's still an on-label rate. If the nighttime temp drops below 32 degrees within 2 days before or after spraying, don't even spray. You're just wasting your money, you're wasting your time. Okay, so why is this exactly? Let's get into the why part now. Why do you have to do this?
Okay, when you say, you know what, if it's going to get below freezing, don't spray. I think a lot of farmers would say, yeah, that makes common sense. You know, that plant's probably going to shut down if it gets below freezing, but wow, below 50, Brian. You know, if I'm in Montana, I'm saying, hold on, I'm below 50 every single night. So what are you talking about? Are you just trying to sell me more product? And the answer is, well, no. You know, we just want the product that you use to work. Here's why we say that you need to increase it 50%. Because once we get below 50 degrees, that plant's metabolism just slows down a lot. So that Roundup is going to take a long time to work through that system. And when you think about how Roundup works, especially on the broadleaf weeds, it has to go to each growing point all the way down that plant and deliver a lethal dose. If it's moving that Roundup super slow through the plant, it has that much more time to break that product down.
Yeah, but it's before that even. It's when you're spraying. When you spray, is the leaf really going to absorb as much liquid when it's cold as compared to when it's hot? No way. So I just look at this thing as I don't get as much into the plant. I don't move it as quickly to the growing point. And when those two things don't happen, then I know I have a lot less product at that growing point. I may not have a lethal dose anymore, and especially if I've got broadleaves where I may have 20 or 30 growing points like on a little lamb's quarters plant that I'm trying to kill early in the spring. Well, you're going to kill all the top growing points, but you won't kill those lower growing points because you just run out of steam. So you've got to up that rate, or of course the other choice is just wait until the weather warms up. Even though we don't farm a tremendous amount of acres, we farm about 2,700 crop acres, we've got 2 sprayers on the farm. So I can wait until just the right time. I've got 2 operators, 2 sprayers, and we can roll. And I can get everything done. I could spray the entire farm in 2 days.
Well, you know what? That's nice, Brian, to be equipment rich. But here's the other side of it. A lot of guys say, hey, I'm a one-man show. I don't care if I own 2 sprayers. I'm the one that's got to run them, and I can't run both of them at the same time.
Yep,
so here's what I need to do. I need to add something to that mix to make this work. Maybe I need a tank mix partner. Maybe I need a different spray additive. You know, what can I do that I can add to the tank to still make it work?
Well, I just look at it as you've got to up your glyphosate rate. Okay, so maybe in some cases you can throw something else in, but that actually could be a detriment. We used to talk to farmers all the time years ago who would throw in 2,4-D with the Roundup on the burn down. And I just said, what in the world are you doing that for? Because the 2,4-D is going to shut the plant down before the Roundup can get in and kill the root.
Well, hold on. That's a pretty big blanket statement there, because it all depends on the rate of 2,4-D, the temperature when you're doing all this. Yes, on a hot day with a strong rate of 2,4-D, you could fry some of those really susceptible weeds quick and Roundup wouldn't make it in. But you know what? We're going to have 2,4-D tolerant crops here pretty soon. We're going to be using a lot of 2,4-D and Roundup, and I can just guess right now the rates that they're going to put in there are going to work. So they're going to figure out what the rate is. They can't have too much 2,4-D or too much Roundup. It's got to be just the right balance.
Well, it depends a lot on if we're talking annual weeds or perennial weeds too. But anyway, our whole point here is just think about how herbicides work.
The other thing is you have to do everything right. So that means when you're looking at the label and it says put on 17 pounds of ammonium sulfate per 100 gallons of water, do it. Don't skimp on that. Don't try to use some cheap AMS replacement product. You know, some of those are good, but AMS is still really good. So use the AMS. Then look at the rest of it. If you're looking at cold weather spraying, or sometimes on the warm side, it's right on the label that you can put non-ionic surfactant in there at 1 quart per 100 gallons. I would suggest that in cold weather spraying as well.
One last thing I guess I would point out here. So let's say you're normally out there spraying 32 ounces of name brand Roundup, and you're going to bump it all the way up to 60 ounces or 50 ounces, whatever you want to do when the weather's cold. Okay, did you need the 32 ounces? Do you need the 50? Do you need the 60? It depends a lot on the weed. What I'm trying to say here is, for green foxtail, for example, if that was the weed I was after, you got more than enough at 32 ounces.
So in other words, if you're already spraying a rate that's much more than you need for the particular weed you're trying to kill, you know, you don't have to get carried away. You have to use a little bit of common sense. But when you're spraying Roundup in cold weather, we typically recommend increasing the rate or waiting till temperatures warm up.
Well, that could be a big factor, Darren, if you've got our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?
Honey Wagon? Can the sweet talk. Out here we treat manure, and when we talk treats, we don't mean cupcakes. Treating manure with More Than Manure Nutrient Manager can reduce solids in your pit or lagoon and ammonia levels in confinement buildings. PU, try N and P. MTM is the first and only nutrient manager proven to reduce nitrogen loss and phosphorus lockup. That's fertilizer loaded with yield potential. Looking for proof? Check the bin. Isn't that sweet? Results you can't ignore, a pit you finally can.
For lower cost, higher production, see your Mandaco Agri-Dealer. Ask about the best production-built land roller on the market. Mandaco, simple design for easy transport to easy use. 12 to 85-foot widths, heavy-duty 4x8 3/8-inch tube frame, and now available with a steerable wing wheel. Mandaco land rollers, improved soil-to-seed contact, faster, more uniform germination, less moisture loss, eliminate downtime due to rocks. See your Mandaco Agri-Dealer. Visit northcountrymarketing.biz. Call.
You expect a lot from this seed, and as it grows through each stage of development, Agroculture Liquid Fertilizers is there, feeding your crop exactly what it needs when it needs it. So no matter how you fertilize, no matter when, AgroLiquid efficiently brings all the nutrients your crop needs for a great harvest. From 1 kernel in the ground to 600 on the ear. For better yields and better quality, Agroculture Liquid Fertilizers.
Today's Case IH equipment is packed with industry-leading technology, and Titan Machinery has the experts to make it perform to its maximum potential. We have a team of specialists and the entire Titan Machinery Network to provide you with the expertise to keep up with today's advanced machines. Whether it be for your Case IH planters, sprayers, or precision farming equipment, our experts have the answers to get the most out of your equipment investment. Maximize your productivity with Titan Machinery. Better solutions.
Soybean seed treatments. Darren, this topic was pretty easy about 10 years ago. We had a couple of choices. Now we've got a whole bunch of choices, and you can mix and match things. I bet there'd be a million different combinations.
Well, and here's the other thing too, is some guys say, you know what, I only want the new stuff. I don't want anything that we used to do back in the day because, boy, that just doesn't make sense. It has to be outdated. One of those things that guys think might be outdated is inoculant. Why on earth would you not use inoculant in this year's soybeans?
Right, but when we talk about inoculant, there are newer strains that they're finding and developing every year, so there's newer, better stuff that hopefully is going to work better than the old inoculants you used to have.
Yeah, with modern science now, they actually know which strains of bacteria are a lot better at producing nitrogen more efficiently for your crop. So those are the strains that the companies are putting forward now in their products. Back in the day when I was a kid, we used to put inoculant on the seed, and you know what? They really didn't know how much was in there. They didn't know which strains were in there. They didn't even know there were multiple strains. They just, well, it's rhizobia bacteria, put it in.
Okay, but here's what we do know. There are extenders for inoculant, and you can use those, but it's still not going to stop bacteria mortality, because don't ever forget that inoculant is simply live bacteria, and within 24 hours usually, you're going to have half of those bacteria dead if it's not planted and in the ground. Whether you have an extender on there or not, you know, it's not going to, I mean, it's going to make some difference, but you're still going to have bacteria death. So the point is, we want you to inoculate your beans and get them in the ground as soon as you can. And if you say, well, I get my seed treated and I get all these other treatments on 3 weeks before I plant, okay, that's fine, but get dry inoculant then, put that in the planter box right when you're ready to plant, then you don't have any problems with stickiness or anything else, and you get the live bacteria in the ground. Other biological products could include things like Quick-Rits, for example, that's a combination of beneficial bacteria and fungi, and there are many other products out there too. We just encourage you, try something, try some things on your farm. That's why we're using it on our acres, because we were trying this for many years, doing strip trials, everything else, and it paid. So again, just try some things on your farm, especially with the biological products. All right, let's get to the more popular ones, fungicide and insecticide.
All right, well, let's talk about fungicide. First of all, you absolutely need to put a fungicidal seed treatment on your soybean seed.
But why, Darren? Because I don't always have disease.
It's on all the corn seed that you're planting, and you think about that. It comes pre-treated for you because the seed companies know it's that important. They have to have it on there in order for you to get a good, successful stand year in and year out. Now with soybeans last year, some areas of our country were exceptionally dry all the way through the year, and the seed treatment still paid as long as they got some crop.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't always pay, and what I always tell guys is, look, it's $3 or $4 investment, and you know, if you gain 5 bushels one time, that's enough to pay for fungicide. And this happens on a regular basis where you can gain 5 bushels. Well, you just paid for this stuff for, I don't know what the math is, 15, 20 years, depending on whatever your soybean price is. My point is, it's something that's probably going to give you a good return on investment in just about any situation over the long haul. But don't just look at 1 year, you've got to look at the average.
Well, the other thing, Brian, that many farmers are doing now is using insecticide seed treatments. And in many cases, it's a combination product that has a biological, has a fungicide, and has an insecticide, because there's so many people that are putting all those things on that the seed companies were just overwhelmed by people saying, hey, how can I put all this stuff on in one product so I don't have to put on all kinds of liquid that it drips off the seed?
All right, but when we talk about insecticides, there's really only one family. It's the neonicotinoid family. So we're talking Poncho, Gaucho, or Cruiser. It's one of those. So if you're going to have an insecticide out there, what you're going to gain is you're going to get early season control of things like bean leaf beetles, pretty decent on grasshoppers, and even soybean aphids to some degree. Since soybean aphids come in so late in the season, you won't get all the aphids, but you probably reduce your numbers by 50%. And in a lot of cases, that's a big help.
Well, and you think about it, those early season insects, most people really don't have time to get back out in your fields and scout well enough to find them before they cause a big problem. So putting on that insecticide on the seed treatment, it buys you time when you're out trying to spray your corn or your other crops, so you don't have to be quite as good at scouting, at least for insects in your fields.
And also we encourage you to talk to your seed dealer, because there are some seed treatments where you can get respray programs, so that can be a good deal for you as a farmer as well. All right, now let's get real specific. There's a new product that came out this year. So Monsanto's got their Acceleron treatments, and this year they added something to Acceleron. What is it?
Well, that's easy. Xemium, Brian. That's the new product.
Yep, so this Xemium is something that BASF has developed now. It's a different family than what Headline is. So the old Acceleron had Headline. The new Acceleron also has Headline, but it's got Xemium on top of that. Plus it's got Apron in there, which is still really good for Pythium. And Darren was talking earlier about you don't want to use really old products. And I'm thinking, how long has Apron been out, or, you know, the active ingredient there? I mean, we're talking, what, 30 years probably? And it's still excellent on Pythium, still the very best thing in the market. So with this new Acceleron, you got 3 different fungicides, plus you've got insecticide, which would be similar to gaucho.
And those fungicides each have their own strengths, and that's the big thing. You say, well, why do I need 3 fungicides? The reason why is because none of those 3 will get everything all by themselves.
Right, and then the other thing is it helps with resistance management and that type of thing. I would also encourage you to consider something like Innovate. Innovate has 2 different fungicides that are very systemic in there, plus it has what would be the active ingredient in poncho, or clothianidin.
And the thing I like about Innovate is it's all in one jug. So there isn't a whole bunch of different things that you have to mix together. That's pretty handy, but let's face it, your seed dealer is going to be putting these on for you. So, you know, you have to talk to your seed dealer about, well, which treatment do you have?
Yep.
Why is that a little better than using something else that might be out there on the market? Because there is a difference between seed treatments.
Yep, well, once again, we really encourage you to take a look at these soybean seed treatments, especially as the soybean price has gone up, yields have gone up, and the way I look at it too, I'm spending a lot of money, I'm investing a lot of money, I should say, in very good soybean seed on my farm. I want every seed to grow if I possibly can get it to grow. So I want to really protect that seed with a good fungicide or fungicide combination and insecticide, and then also boost yield a little bit with inoculant and another biological product.
Well, if you can get that seed out of the ground quickly, you can create a good early canopy, which will help you against our Weed of the Week. We'll tell you how to stop this tough weed coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
You work to protect your farm's legacy and to keep it going. Introducing the Enlist Weed Control System, an advanced herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate for exceptional control of tough weeds. The next chapter begins.
Our Weed of the Week may be a little bit tricky to you because it's actually a crop. Well, at least it once was a crop. Now we're talking about volunteer winter wheat. Anytime you have winter wheat growing out in your field when you don't want it to be, it can be a problem. Now you could say, well, that's my cover crop for a while, and that's fine to let it go for a little while, but at some point you have to make sure to control that winter wheat. Now the most critical time is likely in the fall. If you're going to seed winter wheat back into that field, you need to leave at least 2 weeks where you completely burn everything off in the field so you eliminate the green bridge. That's where insects or disease from volunteer winter wheat could transmit into that new seeding winter wheat that you had, and you just pass that disease or bug on. So you need to make sure you eliminate that green bridge in the fall. There's a few ways you can control winter wheat at any time of the year. You can use tillage for one. It is an annual plant, so you can wipe it out if you do a good job of tillage. The other thing that's much more common though is just to have a burn down application. Roundup is by far the most popular product, But you have to keep in mind volunteer winter wheat is much tougher to kill than most foxtails. So 8 ounces an acre or something like that is probably not going to cut it. Now in the spring, it's too cold to get Roundup to work well, so you'll have to use a little higher rate of Roundup, probably the 16 to 22 ounces of a 6-pound Roundup. When you get it in crop, like in soybeans for example, you can certainly kill volunteer winter wheat post-emerge with something like Select Max. If you've got Liberty crops, you can certainly use Liberty out there as well. Again, just like Roundup, you'll have to use a little stronger rate than normal to get it under control. That's all for this week's Weed. Iron Talk is coming up next.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
What are farmers doing to feed the planet? They're using Quadtrac technology, soil management, and planting systems from Case IH to foster a better growing environment that maximizes yield potential. Visit caseih.com to be ready.
Farming can be a challenge, especially when you're trying to plant into tight soils and heavy residue situations. We'll show you how to check and adjust your furrow openers on your planter in today's Iron Talk. There are a couple of major styles of disc seed furrow openers. Either 2 discs are side by side, as is common in the Deere, Kinsey, and White planters, or the 2 discs are in a staggered setting like the Case and a few others do it. Either way, now's the time to check your furrow openers for wear so you can adjust them for proper performance or replace them entirely. With the double disc seed furrow openers, the discs can be adjusted in as they wear. Simply remove the spacer washers from behind them as needed. You want the 2 blades to be working together as one cutting edge in order to do the best job. On the staggered blade disc furrow openers, the rear disc should be tucked in behind the front disc and just touching. If not, spend the money this year on new parts. Getting a great stand is critical to your success, so check your furrow openers today. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now, back to the show.
For years, FarmLogic has been the easiest and most convenient way to keep up with your farming operations. Well, it just got better. Introducing FarmPad for your phone. You always have your phone with you, so entering records as they happen is as easy as a touch of a button. Chemical database, GPS, service records, and more. When you do it on the farm, save it on your phone and it's backed up forever. Call or visit farmlogic.com for a free trial and find out why FarmLogic is the best decision tool for the farm.
Micronutrients are not optional for plants, they are essential. TJ Micromix is a profit-proven management tool that ensures the availability of essential secondary and micronutrients. Formulated as a dry granule or liquid, TJ Micromix is plant available, easy to mix and apply. The synergistic fertilizer mix delivers consistent yield response on a variety of crops by complementing an NPK fertilizer program. Maximize yield on your farm this season. Call TJ Technologies or your fertilizer dealer and get your TJ Micromix today.
Back in 1966, Advanced Drainage Systems, Inc. was the first company to start manufacturing plastic agricultural drainage pipe in the United States. And today, ADS continues our leadership with superior pipe production and service capabilities. Our roots are firmly entrenched in the agriculture industry, and we're committed to helping farmers grow their business. With 54 manufacturing plants and 24 distribution yards throughout the world, you can count on ADS and our green striped pipe to be there when you need us. Advanced Drainage Systems, the green striped pipe you can count on.
Supercharge your phosphorus with Avail. Add Avail to the phosphorus in your starter and see an average increase of 7.8 bushel per acre. Studies show that when added to the phosphorus in your starter application, Avail promotes more efficient pea uptake for stronger roots, better overall plant health, and higher yields come harvest. Supercharge your phosphorus and your yield potential this spring with Avail Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. Ask your fertilizer dealer for details today.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
The all-new S-Cube commercial tender is the only tender on the market with poly tanks, giving you the capability to haul seed, fertilizer, water, or liquid fertilizer. Each cube can hold 300 units of seed, 2,000 gallons of liquid, or 300 cubic feet of fertilizer. Options include full functioning wireless remote, stainless steel conveyors, and self-contained hydraulics. Get yours today at Norwood Sales.
That's all the time we have for today's show. We're going to go in and warm up, Brian. But tune in again next time for another Weed of the Week, Iron Talk, Farm Basics, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
Subsurface drainage tile is used around your home and in farmers' fields to remove excess water safely. As water filters down through several feet of soil, it is purified naturally. To learn more about clean water leaving farm fields, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.